Welcome to Flashback Files, the podcast where career and leadership lessons from the past guide your journey forward. I'm Josh Green, and here we'll explore both my own experiences and the stories of others, unpacking wins, doubts, pivots, and the moments of clarity that shape us as leaders. You don't need to have it all figured out. Leadership often shows up in unexpected places, at work, at home, and in the choices we make every day. By reflecting on aspirations, mistakes, and breakthroughs, we can discover how the decisions of today build the leaders we become tomorrow. Each episode blends conversations and personal reflections, all with one purpose: to help you lead yourself first so you can lead others with confidence, purpose, and integrity. Whether you're just starting out, making a career shift, or simply seeking more clarity in how you show up in life, this podcast is for you. Because you don't need every answer. You just need to start asking the right questions. Welcome back to Flashback Files, a reflective series exploring experiences that shape early career development. This series is once again for university students, recent grads, and young professionals. Today's conversation is with Sergio, where he's going to explore his early career journey from entering university right through to completing his PhD. In our discussion, we'll have a look at whether career clarity came from a single defining moment or from gradual progressive learning. Sergio's story will offer a relatable perspective for students who are about to graduate and maybe seeking to further their education in a postgraduate program, or who are navigating the early years of their careers. As I am a little bit more removed from my early career days, Sergio's experience is just a little more recent and relatable. So, Sergio, if you don't mind, can you give our listeners a little bit about who you are and maybe how long ago you completed your undergrad program?
Sure. So first of all, I'm Sergio. I'm 32 years old. I completed my undergrad. It was about 7 years ago, in 2018. What I did a chemical engineering and bioengineering undergrad, which was a 5-year program, and I did a co-op. So that was a 6-year degree. And then since then, I've been doing a PhD, which took 7 years, and I just finished.
Congratulations on that. So that's the academic side of things. And how about just on the non-academic side? What about hobbies, sports, routines, interests?
Oh yeah, sure. So I play a lot of soccer. I think that's you could say that's an obsession of mine. I watch soccer, play soccer. I also read a lot of nonfiction history books. Right now I'm reading a bunch of ancient Egypt books like 18th Dynasty, really interesting. And yeah, I'm interested in also I play a bit of music, a little bit of music here and there. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
And what instrument?
I play guitar mostly.
Oh,
Just like
amazing. Any genres of
acoustic.
music?
Sorry?
Any genres of music that you enjoy?
Uh, yeah, I like a lot of like folk, a lot of some rock and roll. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So before we talk about where you are now, I'm really curious about how the journey started. So when you think about what having career meant to you when you were about to start university, what did that look like?
When I was about to start university, I was thinking more about my passions. I remember I was doing a lot of volunteering at like the environmental organizations. We were planting cattails in the Hamilton Bay, or I guess it's called Burlington Bay. And just because there's a lot of pollution, we wanted to do something kind of fun, but also something that would help. And I thought, I really wanted to make a career where kind of tying that part of my interest into something I'd do for the rest of my life. So I was initially thinking about environmental science. And then I thought about, engineering would be actually another great option. And that's kind of where I made that decision. I thought environmental engineering, some practical uh, applications where I could put my passions into work.
Amazing. So your choice in where you would take your education really was rooted in a passion.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider the amount of money you could make, or the prestige that would come along with such a an academic endeavor at the time?
Yeah, that was part of the decision, and knowing that there was work, knowing that engineers, typically make a good amount or comfortable amount, that definitely went into the decision as to why I wanted to pursue that.
Okay. And when you think about your upbringing, how emphasized was education as a whole and getting a good job? Was it in your family?
So, I mean, looking back, I think it's funny because there was never, my parents never the kind of people to push me into doing something. They kind of let me, and I have a sibling, my sister kind of figure things out. And I don't know how they did it, but we were always interested in doing well school wise. I don't know. And they were not, they're not educated in the traditional sense. They're intellectual, but they didn't pursue formal education.
Mhm.
But at the same time, they're just curious about the world. And I think that is kind of what seeped into myself and my sister into kind of going after things we were interested in for the sake of being interested in them. And it just so happens that that also aligns well with doing well academically. Just kind of hunker down, read a book, and do homework because it's fun. It was just kind of that situation.
Right. What an amazing trait to pass down, though.
Yeah,
Curiosity. I think a
yeah,
lot more of us could have that in our lives, just being curious and lifelong learners in a way.
yeah.
So on that point of education not being emphasized, I did notice that you completed a self-paced program in high school. I'm very well aware of it in our community. What led you to taking that program? Was it just because it was in your catchment area, or did you make a pointed decision to attend that high school?
Yeah, I knew one other person who went there, my friend Lisette, and it wasn't too far from we had moved to. So I thought that was interesting. I knew that they were pretty selective as to who they accepted. I wasn't going in as a grade nine because we had moved recently from we had lived in the States and then we had recently moved to Hamilton. So I just had to kind of pick a high school, and I saw, Westmount, they had this interesting program that seemed that you had to do somewhat well academically to get in, and they had the self-pacing. I didn't really have an opinion of whether I was going to excel or not. I didn't know, but I liked the challenge, so I thought, why not? And I know one person there, which is a lot. Usually I don't know anybody because I had just moved.
Right. And how would you describe your academic performance upon graduating high school?
I mean, yeah, high school was a great time. I don't remember struggling. It was pretty straightforward. It seemed like a good place where a lot of the effort you could see in your grades. If you just studied hard, you could get good grades. There was sort of that linear relationship was there. You could call it that.
Mhm.
So it definitely a great place to work on that sort of you get out what you put in. So yeah,
Right.
in the end I did well. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to look at your first year of university.
Yeah.
When you think about just the overall experience of starting university, what was it like for you?
Yeah, first year engineering at McMaster, it's tough. Uh, Compared with high school, the course load is so much higher. I mean, think about high school. I mean, you're not seeing more than 8 courses a year, probably. But first year university, you're the first time you're seeing 6 courses per term. So that's 12 courses overall. It's insane. And so now I don't think many people were like no one's really ready for that. So it's definitely it was an adjustment period. And I would say for me it took at least a couple of years to really understand how to get a grip, how to kind of stay on top of things. It was definitely not something I got right away. And yeah, and I could see a lot of people were kind of in a similar situation where just you're just struggling to stay afloat basically until the next term.
So my follow up to that is, did social life ever become a distraction? But I change it. Was social life even an option?
Social life is definitely an option. I would say it's absolutely necessary. You need allies, you need friends because you're not going to bring 100% every day. It's not realistic. Some days you're just going to be beat from a midterm or a really hard lab and you need someone that went to class because you needed to sleep in or something like that. Definitely you need to make friends, like real friends who got your back basically. So yeah, so you got to make time to socialize because it's not only part of the university experience, but it's absolutely necessary to succeed. You need friends.
Okay. Yeah, connection is super important no matter what we do in life.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so on a scale of 1 to 10, let's have a look at maybe towards the end of first year. How certain were you at the time that you were on the right academic or career path?
I mean, career path, I hadn't thought of, actually the way McMaster does things is kind of funny. So the first year they pull everyone together, everyone in engineering, and then they let you decide what you want to do. So at the end, I was sure of what I didn't want to do, and I was more sure, I was kind of between two or three options. And I wasn't 100% sure of what I would like and what I wouldn't like in terms of I eventually went to chemical engineering. I was debating whether to go to software, but again I went with what I was really interested in. I was interested in biology. I knew that chemical engineering I could do a bit of that. Um, and but I didn't know that it was going to be that I was going to be successful. I just thought, you know, if I can have a bit of more interest in the classes I'm taking, it'll just be a little bit easier. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So not full clarity by any stretch. So factoring
Yep.
all that in, what's the number out of 10?
Oh, out of 10, I would say 6. At-
6.
yeah.
Okay. I think it's good for the listeners to hear, especially anybody that's going in their undergrad, because sometimes we feel like we need all the answers, but maybe it's only a little bit of a glimpse that we have to help us make the next right decision in our lives. So
Right.
thanks
Yeah.
for being honest with that. So in the university, one common challenge students face are balancing relationships with school. Did you ever have to manage a relationship in your undergrad?
Yeah. I mean, I was dating Andrea, so who you know for
Yes.
since high school. Yeah. So since high school, I've had been dating Andrea, and it was honestly really easy to balance that because she was also studying. I was a couple of years older than her, but she joined me very soon after, and we could just kind of saw each other all the time. So it wasn't. I didn't find I needed to balance. She was busy, I was busy, and then any kind of time we would have lunch or I would see her after. It was, yeah, it wasn't that difficult. Yeah, I didn't find that to be a part that I struggled with, and yeah.
Was it an unspoken agreement that as things started to become increasingly demanding that it took precedence, or did you have to have a strategic upfront conversation about either of your demanding schedules?
I don't think we ever had a conversation. I mean, I think I kind of had a good idea of what her schedule was like, and she had a good idea of mine. So we were just, any opportunity we would have, we would hang out. But if it didn't happen, we would just see each other a different day. It wasn't, and we had the weekend as well. I think the weekend we were just looking forward to. Yeah, that's kind of when we were kind of catch our breaths anyway. Um, So we didn't really have to even come to an agreement. It just came naturally. Yeah, just kind of understood that we both were really busy.
Okay. Now we're going to fast forward to the end of your undergrad. On day one of your final year, if you can try to picture that,
Yeah.
how confident were you at that time out of 10 that you would figure out your career direction?
Uh, I was not super confident still. I was still figuring things out, although I had something in my mind that I wanted to try. So I had been thinking about graduate school. That was because I had just come out of my co-op. So I did a co-op at Sanofi, and I was around some other people like in my position who had done well enough to consider graduate school as an option, and we were looking at kind of different options together. I remember looking at University of Toronto with my friend, and we ended up choosing that path together. And he became my roommate, and so I was starting to look at that as a real possibility. I didn't know what I was going to do or what I was going to study, but I think I was starting to picture myself going to pursue that option rather than going directly into the workforce. And the only reason that was possible was because I had kind of taken that year to kind of process things, where I was going, what was possible after I finished. But if I hadn't taken that year, I think I would have just kind of wanted to kind of, I wouldn't have really thought about it so much. So it was nice to take a year kind of off of school, still obviously doing something working, but evaluating kind of where I'm going was a big necessary step. Yeah.
Good. It's, you touched on something so, I think, relatable, at least for me when I was graduating at the time. It was just college, but I was graduating and I felt like I needed to jump into something right away, get paid, justify my investment, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. When it comes, and I guess I'm going to speak through the lenses of me back in the day, where seeking any form of postgraduate degree seemed very daunting, intimidating, not only from an academic perspective, but also a financial perspective. Did you have any mental hurdles there that you needed to overcome, either on the financial side of things or just even the challenges that may come along with pursuing your PhD?
Yeah, that's definitely something that is painful. I think now it's a bit better. I think all the universities have started to. There was a significant pay bump as soon as I was leaving my PhD. All the universities started to pay everybody else a little bit better, which is great. There was a lot of fighting for that, but it's definitely something that I knew. This can't be for a long time because it's a bit painful, and you need to figure out roommates and all of that because it's almost impossible to do it like on your own, like living on your own, especially in Toronto. So it's definitely I kind of realized, yeah, this is a bit of a sacrifice. But I knew that if I didn't do it now, I think it would be harder to kind of go, even though it's still an option, it's still definitely a viable option if you choose to go into the workforce and then come back to graduate school. Happens all the time.
Mhm.
But I knew like I didn't have any I didn't have any money going right after, I didn't have anything to spend money on. So I thought if it would be really easy just to kind of continue. I don't know if it is actually easier or not. I suspect it's probably around the same, but I think I felt that I was ready to take that step. And I think in my heart I wanted to do it rather than go into the workforce. Hopefully that's something that pays off in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure it will. Um, did you ever, especially in that year that you took off, and not everybody that graduated from your program went off to do their PhD or even take the time to make the decision. So going back to those people that might have felt compelled to get a job and perhaps landed a job, did you ever compare yourself to those that might have been perceived as excelling once they came out of undergrad and who are getting paid? And
No, I didn't. I mean, there's no. I was happy to see that they were, and I still am happy to see it, all of my peers and colleagues who didn't go to graduate school. I'm glad that they're making their mark in the industry because, I mean, and selfishly, I kind of know of so many people now who are kind of really cemented in the industry, and I have so many friends who, they have their PN, for instance, they have their professional engineering designation, which I don't have, but that's because they've been working in industry for so long. I'm not comparing myself to them because, you know, we all kind of know that career paths are definitely not linear. And, like I said, now I know somebody in that company or this company who can vouch for me from way back when, but still I know people all around who have so much experience now. I'm happy for them, and I know I can't wait to catch up with them and to them. But yeah, never really felt that comparison. Only, I mean, not really. It's just that yeah, I can't really wait to get out there as well in the industry and make my mark as well. But it's never really comparing myself. Yeah.
It's very a healthy perspective. Did you when you think about just in general, because you sound very grounded, did you ever have mentors or tools or resources that
Mm.
helped you stay as grounded as you are?
I wouldn't say I had a mentor, so that's something I think I was missing. I think I mean, right now, yeah, I feel like it made sense, but definitely there were moments where, especially during my PhD, where I was very, you know, not unsure, but I was like, this is really difficult. But once you overcome the most difficult parts of that, and that a lot of that is the psychological, a lot of that is just being comfortable about where you are, then it's just about putting in the time to finish, and that's it. So I would say maybe the resources I did use was just to enrich my experience, do things outside of the lab, do things outside of school. That helps a lot so that I have something to look forward to other than just being completely focused. So I would say, I mean, I played a lot of soccer and I made a lot of friends through uh, the university intramural community.
Hmm.
I just things like that. That really is just seeing people in the same situation going through the degree, different degrees, people from different backgrounds. I think that was very helpful. But I honestly I should have had a mentor, and I think it's a gap that I would say if I could do something different, I would have seeked out a mentor. Yeah.
Okay, that's well. It's good for the person going through it right now.
Yeah.
Find tap somebody on the shoulder that can maybe help guide you through the challenges of undergrad and getting into your career. So when we take you through the PhD a little bit, like in terms of working as a candidate or towards it, can you fill us in on what your day to day looked like at any given time? So the application
Yeah.
process, maybe even touch on how you felt and the experiences when you know that you got in, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit about the journey when you were in.
For sure. So process when at least when I was applying is you know it's a very generic process. You submit kind of like a letter in your you submit your academic record, but the most important thing is to get in touch with potential supervisor, somebody who is running a lab, right, like a professor who's doing something you're interested in, and you need to let them know who you are. They need to be aware of you because they're receiving thousands of applications. So that's the most important thing is to find somebody, get in touch with them early on, probably within the year that you're applying, and find a way to have a talk with them or meet them. At least the university that I applied to, University of Toronto, they had a whole day where uh, they would invite people to their campus, and you basically do interviews with different professors that you're interested in. So that's how I met my supervisor, and that's basically how we had an agreement that he would accept me. So that's the most important part. As soon as you realize that you have the requirements, that's what you need to be doing is contacting people that you're interested in working with. And it wouldn't hurt to also talk with students who are in that lab currently to see what it's like. Maybe visit the facilities because you're going to be spending a lot of time there. and it's important. It's an important decision. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Sounds like networking is an important part of the overall process there.
Definitely, it's I would
Okay.
say the most important part. Yeah.
Okay. So you get accepted. You're good. What happens? How you feeling? What did you do to celebrate?
Yeah, it was really interesting. What happened was that I was kind of waiting for, I had met with my supervisor and the signs were good, but I was waiting maybe a couple of weeks, and I got the letter when I was having kind of lunch with all of my friends. It's a really, really special moment, and I was like, oh, I just got into my PhD, and everyone was kind of like really happy. So that was a great feeling. uh, just knowing what I would be doing for the next few years is you know, and then I was going into the summer, and I felt like that was probably the best summer. I was able to kind of just relax because I knew, come September, I knew what I was going to do, but I kind of just took the summer off, and I was able to kind of just disconnect and then kind of really get into it when I started.
Amazing. And then a day in the life. So September comes. What did that typical day look like for you?
Yeah, I guess the typical day really starts when you really start laboratory work, which can take a bit of time. So you really have to figure out, you do obviously all the safety stuff, but then what you really have to figure out is what you're actually going to do. And what typically happens is that a supervisor will present you with an idea that they have. They might think that, oh, there might be this project. I'm not 100% sure, but you need to look into it. You need to find what are the research gaps. Basically, what is it that we should be studying, and formulate a plan as to how you're going to do that. So that's kind of the first big step of a PhD is like, what is it that you're actually going to do? And that could take like the first year just to figure that out, because you have to get yourself familiar with the field, get yourself familiar with what we call the gaps, the research gaps. I know what we don't know and what is feasible for us to study in 4 years, and get really specific. And then you lay out your objectives, and then your supervisor agrees or disagrees. They go, you go back and forth, and you hammer out the objectives, and then that's kind of the research plan that you should stick to. You don't have to stick to that, but that it sort of guides you. And so from that, then you kind of know what it is you're actually going to do in the lab, which is it's every PhD is completely different. So for me in particular, it was uh, doing what we call anaerobic digestion. It's basically taking some microbes and doing this biological process. It converts. It's used a lot of times in waste to convert a waste feedstock into. The reason to do it is to partially convert it into biogas, and you're left with less waste at the end. So that's what the focus of my research was on. So every day I was either running an anaerobic digester, or analyzing some samples, or looking at my data. Those three things, or reading papers. One of those three things would occupy most of my time for 4-ish plus years.
And then you end up having to defend your thesis.
Yes. So kind of by the time you defend your thesis, you're kind of comfortable with standing in, but what it really is you're standing in front of some professors who have looked at your thesis. But I guess I should backtrack a couple of steps, because what you're really doing along the way is having little mini defenses, what we call reading committee meetings. And what you're doing is you're providing a progress report to a committee of professors so you're providing a progress report about all the research you've done and what you're going to do. You're doing that about every once a year, every few months, but it really is about once a year to make sure you're on track. And then the thesis defense is kind of, you're doing that, but you're evaluating not what you're going to do, but what you have done and what you have contributed to new knowledge, and that you've developed as a PhD, that you've really gained that ability to deconstruct a problem, plan how you're going to tackle that using in a lab or research, and then communicate those results, whether that's written or oral. So
Hmm.
that's what a defense is. It's in, and it ends up being a 20-minute presentation, PowerPoint slides where you're trying to summarize the most important points of your however long it took you to finish. And then it's like an hour and a half of questions about you really trying to make sure you've thought of every little thing and really trying to figure out what haven't you addressed and why, and kind of also recommend what other people should do in if they go in that direction. So it's a pretty intense process, and yeah, and it's not easy, but in the end, you defend the point is to defend what you've done and to also kind of communicate to these professors that what you've done is worth having a PhD for.
Right. So there's so much to unpack there. I won't go too deep into it, but
Yeah.
I can only imagine the line of questioning. And maybe you were certain about everything and maybe it was perfect or maybe it wasn't. Were there moments where there was a question asked and you need not have felt as confident answering it, or were you pretty well confident throughout the whole thing?
No, I would say you can't prepare for every like they say you can't really prepare for every question. Anything could be asked. So what they really are looking for is not that you're sure about everything that that you know everything. It's more about being able to tell them what you do know, and then if you don't know something, what is it that can be done to address that gap? So I would say definitely during my defense there are things that we kind of knew that from the project that were not perfect, but that we were able to address as to maybe there were technical limitations as to the technique we were using, but as long as we were able to address those, uh, everyone was kind of satisfied. Yeah, so they were definitely tough questions because no PhD is completely perfect, but in the end we were able to kind of come to a point where yes, you've kind of done what was necessary.
I equate it to, maybe just to make it tied even more relevance back to the listeners, job interviews. You know what you know when the interviewers are asking questions, but if there's a question asked of you and you don't know the answer, admitting to that and
Mm,
perhaps identifying how you can go about getting the answer, super critical.
yeah.
So I'm just going to segue over to, now you have your PhD. Congratulations. I understand it's been about a month that you've had an opportunity to let it all sink in. You seem like the reflective type, so I'm sure you've done quite a bit of reflecting,
Hmm.
but have you considered where you see yourself going from here? Have you taken action since the PhD? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I think once I kind of knew that I was finishing, I started to do a bit of research as to my next steps and to kind of where I should be putting a lot of effort in. I think what I've been doing a lot is a lot of networking, a lot of talking to people who work in places that I would like to work in roles that maybe I see myself in 10 years or maybe even a 1 year. So talking to a lot of different people, anyone in the industry that can give me a few minutes. I'm introducing myself every chance I get. So reaching out to people on LinkedIn or meeting people in person, just saying hi, that sort of thing. And yeah, really trying to, right now I'm actively, yeah, looking for a job, but really being specific about the type of work I want to do. So really giving myself the chance so that when I do get a job, it's definitely one that I want to be in for a long time. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. I love how much networking is coming up in this discussion. In the last interview that I had, I touched on it in separate discussions, but in the networking part of either finding a job or just even gathering information and also providing value to other people, you'll be in a place, and you are in a place now where you're providing value in those networking conversations. This might be a tall ask, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's the ideal life and career look like for you?
Yeah, I think I see myself working in wastewater processes, doing some interesting projects out in industry, whether that's in municipal wastewater treatment or industrial wastewater treatment, doing something interesting with biological systems. I love biological systems. I would be happy if I can do anything with bacteria, archaea, any anaerobic systems or aerobic systems. I'm so happy with that. And yeah, definitely want to do something where I can get my professional engineering designation and working on a team delivering, solutions that are good for us, as a society, treating our wastewater, taking care of our precious water. That would make me very happy.
This has all been really great, Sergio. I do have a couple of like miscellaneous questions that I'm going to
Yep.
throw at you randomly if you don't mind. If you were to speak to your 18-year-old self,
Mm.
think about the mindset when you were 18, what would you tell yourself then, knowing what you know today from its academic career perspective?
Yeah, I would say enjoy every step that you're going through. I think I'm the kind of person that likes to think about, what's coming up. What can I do to best prepare myself, which is great. But think being able to be mindful of what I'm doing right now so that I'm enjoying the moment because everything goes by very quickly. So being able to enjoy, you know, it's not all going to be very positive, but being able to enjoy what is enjoyable, the moments that will never happen again, right? I will never be a student again. So I would say enjoy it because yeah, it will end.
Okay, great. What's a fun misconception people have about someone doing a PhD?
I think people who do PhDs are pretty regular. I think the interests people have are wide, but I would say people with PhDs are just regular people who have like a very specific interest and who are able to tolerate a certain amount of pain for a long time. But besides that, I think pretty regular people. Like it's not like there were Sherlock Holmes or Jimmy Neutron or something like that. It's just people who enjoy being in a lab, being able to focus on the details, and that's all that distinguishes people who pursue PhDs from everyone else. It's just being okay with thinking about like one thing for a long time.
Right. Okay, last question. If you could instantly master a non academic skill, what would it be?
Ooh, I think I just going back to soccer, just being able to dribble past the whole team, being able to do a Lionel Messi. That that's what I would pick. I would love that.
Amazing. Okay, Sergio, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you diving into your academic journey. I wish you the best of luck. I'm sure I'll be in touch with you along the way. But thanks again for your time. And we're signing off now.
Thanks, Josh.